This is what I will do when I find this limitation. I will use the 3D pen tool to add an extra segment to split that piece in half and make the parts smaller. Then I'm going to select flatten as straight lines. So when these two areas generate, right here will be perfectly straight. I've basically now broken this into two areas. Then I can get the tool now and it will see these areas. I've selected, I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. And it does generate the pattern pieces. I have given myself a nice straight flat line where they meet, and I can essentially now just merge these pieces together. That's a workaround if you have an area that you want to extract, but it seems to be too large. Just draw some straight lines in there and select flatten a straight line and merge the areas back together after you have extracted. And then another thing I wanted to show you is that when the sleeve generated, because the other pieces had already existed, it did not sew to the garment at all. I'm going to bring the rest of the garment back and just move this piece away. And you can see that that part is not sewn, which is totally fine because then I'm just going to go in here with the free sewing tool. So from front to back, and then hold shift and attach that all as well. I can generate my other sleeve pattern. And then simulate, so this is all on the body. So if you see what's happening in my 3D window, I tried to place the sleeves back on the arrangement points because they generated, and I have them with this angle in the 2D window. If I hit reset 2D arrangement, they actually come up angled. And then when you place them on an arrangement point, they place angled as well. I'm gonna not place those. In order to prevent this or stop this, I'm gonna turn these pattern pieces upright like this. I'm going to reset them so they match that upright position here. And then I'm going to turn my arrangement point on and put that piece back. And while I'm on the topic of showing you the arrangement point, another detail about generating patterns this way is that they never were initially placed on an arrangement point, at least the body was not, the sleeves I just placed. If I hit reset 3D arrangement, this is exactly what's going to happen because all of the body patterns were never actually arranged. So they kind of disassemble and become flat. The only thing that does go back to those arrangement points are the sleeves, which I had just set on them. Just be aware that this tool will more disassemble your stuff rather than resetting it around your avatar. And then I'll just quickly demonstrate the underarm. I should have told that to flatten as a straight line, to be honest, but then I can go in here really and I can just start editing the pattern. I can delete all the curve points. I can open the sleeve up. All of the regular editing features that we learned in the previous tutorials apply now, and you can edit your garment. So one really last helpful detail is that when you generate patterns with the flattening tool, they end up having a ton of curve points when they initially generate. I have learned from experience that the option for optimize all curve points does not work on patterns that have been made using the flattening tool. I just applied that and really nothing changed on my patterns. So if I plan to do some really heavy editing on these patterns now, I will clean up the curve points in areas where I intend to edit. So for the leg opening, for example, before I clean this up, I am going to use the option to clone something as a reference line to mark my original shape. Then I will go in with the Edit Pattern tool, right click on that segment and delete all the curve points. Then I'll go back in there with Edit Curve Point and really achieve this shape with less points and smooth it out in the process if any area has become a little wobbly. Good enough for me. Then I can right click and delete the reference line, and now there'll be no extra marking. The only thing there is the pattern edge. Again, stuff like this, the white peeking over the outline of the pattern is nothing more than the particle distance being very large. I just took my piece and changed it to 5, and all of those little jagged edges clean up. I'm really close. My sleeve cap measures 16.7 and my armhole opening on my body is 16.5. For a starting point on a design, I think this is really good. And cleaning up is really not that difficult. So here, this little area, I'm going to clone this as a reference line. Then I'll delete all the curve points. Go back with Edit Curve Point. So it's up to you how much cleaning up you want to do and how much editing you plan to do after. My sleeves are not linked. I'm going to delete that one and clone this one as a symmetric pattern. So that's going to be the end of this section of the flattening tutorial where I show you just really how the tool works and how to make pattern pieces. I'm going to delete everything I made. Here's a good opportunity to show you that I've used this avatar to flatten already. If I want to delete all of my segments at once, if you right click, there's not the option in the right click menu for delete all. But if you are on the Edit 3D Pen tool, if you hit Control A, it will select all. Control A is a shortcut for select all, and then I can hit delete, and it will remove every marking. This next part will be pertaining to how to create underwire pieces or boning pieces that you can keep stable and shaped to the form of the avatar with using this trick through flattening. So the first thing I'm going to do, I will isolate my 3D window. I'm going to get the flattening tool and draw a center front mark and a center back mark. And then I'm going to draw an underwire shape. This is one of the few scenarios where when I make the shape, I will turn corners and close the shape completely. So the piece that I'm making is clearly going to be really, really thin. So now that I have this shape that I would like to be an underwire, I would like to demonstrate how this really tiny thin piece looks and generates as a result of 20 being the default particle distance when something generates. I'm going to open up my 2D window, and then I'm going to select the flattening tool, hover left click to select this area, and then I'm going to hit enter. So the pattern piece generates and it has a default particle distance of 20. but I need to